Hey everybody, it's John from Finsweet with another Finsweet Webflow hack. In this video, we're going to be making linked timestamps for videos within Webflow's CMS. So let's check out the demo. All right, so we're here at hacks.finsweet.com/57, and if we scroll down to the live example, we can see here we've got a Finsweet press conference, and all of these are timestamped links. So if you click on any of these, it's going to link to the place in the video. So let's do one more here, and we jump to 2140. Okay, so if you scroll down right here, we've got the code. You can click to copy the code and paste it into your project. All we need is to make sure it's set up in Webflow's Designer, and that's what we're going to take a look at now. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at here is we've got a CMS collection set up here, timestamps, and if we can see, we just got the name, the slug, we've got a video field, and then here we've got a rich text field with these links. And these links, all they have is a hash mark, a number sign, and that's all they have because we will be dynamically adding these in with our code. Okay, so that's all we need for the CMS setup. Let's look at how it is structured. All right, so here we have a collection list, and we've got our rich text field with all of those things, and then we've just got linking to that video URL, and that's it for the setup in the Designer. Pretty easy. Okay, so let's jump into the code and walk through it. Okay, so we're here before our closing body tag, and this is the script you need. And I'm gonna be honest, this one is a little bit trickier than the other ones, but don't worry, we're gonna walk through every line of code so you know how to implement this and customize it for your project. Okay, so the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna inject the YouTube script, the API script here. So we got this $, which means we're using jQuery, just a library that stands on top of JavaScript to help us do things easier in JavaScript. And we are just creating this script tag, and we're inserting it before this. Now what's this? Well, we're just grabbing all of our scripts on our page, and normally there's going to be a bunch of them. And we say it's going to be 0 indexed in the array that it returns. And so we just say, so we're just saying, hey, grab all the scripts, and before the first one, 0 index, before 0, insert this script right here. So we want it at the top of the page so all of this can render right when the page begins, and they can interact with it quickly. If you put it at the bottom of the page, then they may scroll down, they may click on the links, and they haven't been created yet. Okay? Okay, so we've injected this script in here, and then we are going to set up the on YouTube iframe API ready function. Okay? And we are going to be interacting with YouTube's API here, YouTube's iframe API. And you can go over and look at the documentation here. We're at developers.google.com/youtube/iframe_API_reference here. Okay, and it'll give you all information about the API. Now, so we are creating this function here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the iframes on the page. So if you're not accustomed to iframes, iframes are basically just inserting a page into your page, okay? And there can be multiple of these on the page. And so we're grabbing our iframes. So we're just grabbing, it just has, the tag is just called iframe. So we're grabbing those, and we are looping through each of those. And then we're running this function. This is just an arrow function that's newer JavaScript, ES6, if that means anything to you. It's just a tighter syntax. And we are passing 2 arguments, I, which is our index. So as you're looping over, which number are we on? Because it goes through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we just know where we are in the loop. and we're passing the frame, the actual, because we're grabbing these frames and we're dumping that whole thing in there, okay? All right, so great. So we've got this thing. The first thing, we're going to get the source of each iframe. So you know that's the source, like what's the URL, okay? And so we're saying let source equal, we're grabbing the frame from up here. We are grabbing the attribute source and we're setting it in here. Okay, so let's just, this can kind of get abstract. So let's get a practical example here. Let's say I'm embedding a Yahoo iframe. Okay, so the source here after this, what would be done would be like https://www.yahoo.com. Okay, so that's what's in here right now. All right, then we're going to skip the iframe if it's not a YouTube video. That makes sense because we're working on this YouTube link. So all the other iframes in your page from any other scripts, we don't care about those. So we're just checking that right here. So if not source includes YouTube, so if it doesn't have the word YouTube in it, return, which is end this function, get out of here, we're all done, we're not doing anything else, we don't care about it. Okay, but let's say it does have YouTube, then we get to continue. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the video ID from the Webflow defined source attribute value. Okay, so we're just getting the video ID. That's pretty simple. Declaring constant variable, we're setting it to this. We're looking at our source right here, so our Yahoo, right? We're splitting it. And we're splitting it because we're doing all this stuff so that we can just grab the ID off of it, okay? And we know that it's and this just comes from how YouTube, the structure of YouTube's URL string works, right? So this is just how it is. So we're splitting on here, and so we know that the ID is at this place within the string. And so we're just splitting at the right place, and we are grabbing it and we're dumping it into this video ID variable. Okay, great, easy enough. Then we are setting our source equal to this thing right here. And you're like, wait, is this a string or something else? This is something else. Once again, this is some new JavaScript stuff, and this is called a template string. Or a string literal is what it calls it. And it's basically when you want to use a variable within a string. Okay, so we've got our video ID and we say, oh, we want to inject that into a string. And so that's what we're doing right here. And so to use template strings or string literals, same thing, we use these, which aren't the ones on your keyboard under right next to your enter key. Those are the ones next to the tilde on the upper left, okay? You put those things on, and then here, this $, curly bracket, and then closed bracket over here is where we're telling JavaScript, hey, this is where the variable is. This is where I want you to dump it. And then you can see here, video ID is our video ID right here, okay? Now, I know this looks like jQuery. It's not jQuery. It's new JavaScript world, okay? So once this is all done, what we're reassigning this variable to, because we assigned it up here to our Yahoo string, and now we're assigning it again to this thing right here, and let's say our video ID is ABC, so it would look like blah, 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 /ABC, then over here to our question mark. So curly bracket, opening curly bracket, money sign, $, is going to be all gone because that'll be rendered in. Okay, cool. So next step is we're going to set the recreated source as the iframes source. Okay, great. So we're grabbing our iframe. Remember, that's our good YouTube one, and we're doing an adder. That's a jQuery thing where we're adding this source attribute, and we're setting it to source. And remember, this is a string. This is a variable. That's a variable we just made right here. Then we're creating a unique ID for the iframe. Okay, so we're just making another attribute. And this time it's an ID attribute, and we're setting it equal to dynamic plus 1. Now, dynamic is just a string. It's literally dynamic plus, I'm sorry, not 1, but I, right? And I is just right here. This is our index. So the first time around, it'll be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, etc. And so the first time this will go around, we will have an ID attribute that is equal to dynamic 0. Okay? So now we've got this string. Let's just see where we are. Let's just like dump this in here so we can see, because we're getting in the weeds and I'm getting lost. Okay? So we've got this here. Remember, we said our ID is going to be A, B, C, right? And we've got an iframe here. So let's just write this out. Let's open our iframe. It's going to have a source equal to this, right? And we just made an ID that's going to be equal to dynamic 0. Okay? And then we're closing that out. And if we do a close, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's not it, but we just want to see this opening part. So this is what we've made so far, right? That's what we've made. Okay? Great. So we've made that nice tag, that beautiful tag. And now the next thing is we want to run this function, create player, and we're going to create player with, and we're going to pass in frame.id. Frame.id. Okay, so what is that? Well, we've got our frame that we've passed in, and we're looking at the ID that we just made. Okay, so great. So this function right here is down here, so we're calling this new function. And don't worry, we only got 2 functions to go. That looks crazier than it is. Don't worry. We're almost there. So we've got this, we're running this function. And here's where we're going to start using YouTube's API, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize our YouTube player with a specified iframes ID. Okay. All this stuff here is just coming straight from the documentation from YouTube's API. So you can just go to that link I linked up before and see this. This is just standard boilerplate stuff, nothing fancy. It looks fancy, it's not fancy. Okay, we're just making a player. We're doing a little constructor thing, YouTube player. And once again, this is just coming from YouTube. They're like, do it like this. And we're copying and pasting this in. Great. Okay. Then we're dumping in our iframe.id. That's all this. We're linking this up. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. And then this also takes this object, just like any constructor API. There's all these things you can do when you initialize it with different things. But we're only caring about one. We're looking at the event property, and we're saying, hey, when it's ready, we want to do an on player ready function. Okay, great. Where is that? Oh, right here, our last function. Great. So we're just running this, right? So here we are. We've run this guy. At the end, we got this new guy. So we're over here. And then at the end, we got one more function, and we're coming here. We're at the end. We can see the end is in sight. Okay? So here, we're just grabbing the event right here. We're passing in the event. And when each timestamp is clicked, okay, what's that? So first thing, we're jQuerying. We are grabbing what? Well, we are grabbing, and once again, we have one of these template strings, this iframe, and that's coming from in here. We're grabbing that thing, and we are IDing it. So we're taking the ID in here, and we're grabbing it. So we're just grabbing our iframe. Then we're looking for the closest. This is a jQuery thing. w.dyn.item. and we're finding .hacks-rich-text A. Okay, so that's just our hacks rich text was just over here. That's our hacks rich text. And we're looking for the links, and the links are in here. Okay, great. So we're getting those links, and then we're clicking them. Now this might be a little bit confusing because in JavaScript, when we run .click, we are actually executing a click in code, right? So we're saying, hey, do a click event here. But in jQuery, this is attaching click handlers. So it'd be like add event listener click, or you could do it the other way in jQuery on parentheses quote marks click. Okay, so we're attaching these event handlers. So we're saying, hey, whenever those links, those timestamps are clicked, this is what we want to do. We're running a function, we're throwing our event, our click event in there, all normal stuff. And what do we want to do? Well, when you click a link, you're going to a page. But we don't want to do that because we're doing something else with links. So we have to, of course, call e.preventDefault, standard JavaScript stuff, whenever you're trying to stop the normal browser behavior, which in our case would be like going to another website or something like that. We're saying, we don't want you to go anywhere because we're in charge, we're doing something else. And what are we doing? Well, so after that, when a user clicks on one of those timestamps, we're going to get the timestamps text, and we're going to split it at the dot. That should be split it at the colon. We can just change that here. We all make mistakes. This will result in an array with the minutes value and the seconds value. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, so we're declaring a variable timestamp. That's our click event. Dot text, we're grabbing the text out of there, we're trimming it, get rid of white space, stuff like that, and we're splitting it at the colon. What are we talking about here? Lost in code land. So let's say we're working with a timestamp that looks like this, okay? So we're splitting it in here, and we're saying we're going to trim it, and we're going to dump it, split it here. So we're going to get an array out of here, and let's just put this in here so we can understand what's going on. So let's just say let r, and well, we don't even need to write that, right? We can just go like this, and we're going to have a 5 in here, and we're going to have a 10 in here. So 5, 10. Let's say that's what we're working with. So after this is what we're going to get. Okay? Cool. So then we're going to declare and initialize the seconds at 0, just a variable. We're setting it equal to 0, and you'll see why we need to do that in a second. If the minute value exists, what do we mean, why would the minute value exist? Well, if it's like 0 or something like that. But here in our example, we're saying 5. So we're saying timestamp 0 in our array timestamp. So that's right here, remember, because arrays are 0 indexed. So if this is true, what is this true? Timestamp 0. Okay, that's cool. That's a 5. And then we're saying number. We're just telling JavaScript, hey, it's a number because we're going to do calculations with it. So I want you to understand it's a number. It's not a string. So if this exists, oh, and it does for us, 5, then we're going to do this. Multiply the value by 60 to get seconds. So we're transforming it into seconds. Once again, you'll see why in a second. Then we're adding it to our seconds variable because we are accumulating here one big seconds package. We want to know how many seconds we're going to. Okay, so here's our seconds. We're assigning it to timestamp 0. Once again, that's 5. Treat it as a number JavaScript because now we're going to multiply it by 60, which is 300, I think. And so now we're at seconds 300. Okay, great. If the seconds value exists, well, it does for us because we're saying 10, we're going to do this. So timestamp 1, once again, 0 index. So we're 1 right here. We're 10. We're 10. JavaScript, number that sucker. 10. Boom. Add it to our seconds. Once again, same thing. 10, number, 10, plus that, 310 seconds. That's where we are. And oh my gosh, we're right at the end here. Then we are going to player. What's that? That is from YouTube's API. So this is nothing we're doing. We're just following directions here, okay? That's all we're doing. We're going to seek to, once again, following directions. That's just a YouTube method. We didn't make this stuff up. And we're dumping in, here we go, our seconds. So remember, 3, 1, 2. That's what we're seeking to. That's where we get to the end to. So anytime someone clicks on one of those links, we've got a nice formatted iframe with the source and the ID correctly, and then we're going to seek to that point in the video so we can go to the exact spot that we want to see. And that's how you make timestamps for YouTube videos within Webflow's CMS.
Thanks so much for checking out this hack. Please clone this project. We have the entire hacks project available for clone. If you get stuck with this implementation, no problem. We offer support for this hack. We're always releasing new hacks, so if you want to be updated, subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter. If you want to request a new hack, submit a super simple form, and all the links are in the description below.
That's effing sweet.